This is Too Long for a Voice Note, a podcast about everything and nothing at the same time. Presented by Claire
and Enzo. Our podcast is produced in London. Some conversations are just too long for a voice note.
Hi, she's Claire.
And he's Enzo.
And this is Too Long for a Voice Note.
Hello.
Hello guys. Welcome back.
We are here.
Back.
It is officially the hottest day of the year. And
yes.
We're recording.
And we decided to record because that's what we do.
Melting.
Yeah, so excuse us if we look a bit shiny.
It's because we
more
are.
than normal,
Yeah.
because, we're always shiny. But if you look a bit more shiny than usual, because it's really hot in London.
It really is. 31 currently.
Yeah,
and it's like,
31. I think earlier it was like 33.
Unreal.
Like London topics. Like
so we've got not our branded mugs with us this week, as you noticed, because we've gone for iced beverages because we thought
I got like iced coffee, which is very gay, I have to say.
Why?
Which is very connected to the topic of today. As a hint. Because it's a thing, like they say like iced coffee is a very gay thing.
I did not know that.
It's
I
like
think of iced coffee is like a Mean Girls kind of thing, like,
maybe
or also
it's
like on the beach.
Yeah, but like in the thing is like always like, oh yeah, gays get like iced coffee. You're like, oh, summertime, gays are out with their iced coffees and things like a little joke. So
there we go.
There
for
you
Pride
go
Month,
for Pride Month.
Yeah. So how's your week been, Enzo?
It's been really nice. I was in Venice, so it was a really, really nice trip. I love Venice. It's my first time in Venice.
Yeah.
It's like beautiful. I think it's everything that you expect it to be. You know, like some places I think they're a bit overhyped, but I feel like Venice actually like meet all your expectations.
Oh, I love that.
It was very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
I really love it. So I really recommend if you want to travel somewhere, Venice is a really good option. It's a bit pricey. I mean, if you live in London, it's not. But for Italy, it is in comparison. Like a lot of things were like London prices.
Yeah.
It's a bit like wow for Italy. But yeah, it's totally beautiful. I think at least 3 days is the minimum you need in Venice to kind of enjoy and experience. And it's kind of mental, like feeling. I think what makes everything so special and nice is there's no cars, no buses, no anything around, and you never think about it until you're in a place that obviously there's no cars anywhere because obviously it's not possible.
Yeah.
You're like, this is like kind of the magic and the charm of it.
Totally.
I really love it.
But it's cool because I remember in the pandemic it was one of the images, right, that all the water was clear in Venice and like actually like little like marine life had come back because there were no boats.
There were no boats.
But it must be even less polluted because it's,
Of course,
but just the boats and everything.
So
will you be blessing us with a Insta series of your Venice pictures?
Yes.
Wednesday?
If you see my stories, I publish like 10,000 millions of stories.
I actually showed one of my colleagues at work at some of Enzo's stories and she was like, oh, he's got a very good eye.
And you were like,
I was like, no.
like
he just copies me. But no, you do. You really do. You do have a really good eye. Love. Yeah.
No, I may post some on my feed. I need to catch up with my feed anyway. Yes. But how was been your week?
It was fine. I was just working.
Did you go anywhere?
Did I do anything? I have a trip.
Venice?
I am going to Italy in July.
Whatever.
But what did I do this week? I actually had a really nice dinner with a friend, Vivi. I think Vivi listens to the podcast. So hola, Viviana.
Hola, Viviana.
If you're here watching.
If you're here.
If you're here.
Not twice.
We went to El Pastor. Is that a good pronunciation?
El Pastor, very
El
good.
Pastor.
I've never been in El Pastor.
You would like it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit
pricey.
much, but it's Mexican. Viviana's from Mexico City, so it's very like nostalgic.
Mexico approved.
Yes, it was very beautiful. Our waitress was from Mexico City as well.
Nice.
That's very sweet. Vivi had mezcal.
What was the drink that you had that it was very cool? That was a mix of many cool things. I think I have
frozen avocado, passion fruit margarita.
That sounds
with chili salt.
That sounds fucking good.
I was like, I'm born to drink this drink. And Vivi had a shot of mezcal.
Mezcal is really nice.
Oh no, I don't like it.
Do you like it?
I don't like it.
I feel like it's a like upgraded version of tequila.
I think I'm still in that like that. I'm like, give me that 50p tequila. But I know it's like very a thing in Mexico, right? And the waitress was talking Vivi through all the different, like there was like a coffee flavored one, like infused, kind of like whiskey, when they infuse it with different things. But
can we copy that margarita that you had?
Let's definitely do really that. Good. Frozen avocado.
We should have one now today.
And it was very filling. It was almost like like an alcoholic smoothie. You would love it. It was delicious.
Maybe we should go to have one.
Yeah.
We go to Vivi.
Yeah, totally.
Well, this week it's whose week? It's my week. Yes.
The time for
Enzo's secret topic of the week.
This week I decided to talk about, as we are in the Pride Month, I decided my topic to be about Pride overall, right? Like everything. I wanted to do kind of like a, I don't know if it's informational, educational type of like episode talking about, well, not all things Pride, but kind of like some concepts, some stuff. I'm sure a lot of our audience is not related to LGBTQ plus community, so maybe they don't know some topics, they don't know some, definitions, or they don't, it's not part of their reality sometimes, so I think it's good to talk about some things. So I wanted to go through some stuff that happened right now, talk about why Pride exists, and all of these things. Very like light. Obviously, this is very like, as we are, a bit like funny, a bit light. So this is not going to be like a history class. I'm just telling you, just as a reference, right? So,
it's like Pride, day one. Pride, the name was day two.
Exactly.
Like, oh God.
This is not a place for that, everyone. So if you listen to the podcast,
we're just going to learn like about
a
what
bit,
it is.
and we're going to be deeper of things that are happening right now. I want your opinion as well on some stuff. So
sounds good.
I want to ask you like something to start the episode. Like, do you remember the first time that you have any like contact or like or your first time that you have like a closer contact with the word Pride, or what it means to be part of being gay or part of the LGBTQ plus community? Do you remember your first time, how it was, or what was that you were like, oh, this actually is a thing? Because obviously our generation is different, and we didn't grew up with that so open, and like, back in the days were more closed and blah 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 culturally. So I'm wondering that.
I think it was always something that I was aware of, to be honest, because I grew up in London, so it's like not, a village.
Sorry, so this is that you come from Caracas, which is barely a city. I'm from London, so we talk about these things here from way back.
I'm really sorry to everyone that grew up in a village. I don't mean any like disrespect, but it's like, for example. And then also I actually went to uni in Brighton, so when I turned 18 I moved to Brighton. I went to Sussex University.
Brighton is basically like a gay city in UK,
of the world, right? I think it's like somewhere that it's really known, right? And very inclusive and all of that. So then I had like lots of gay friends and lots of friends in the LGBT community, and I worked a Pride when I was in the first year. It was really fun.
Oh, that's so cute that you were working at Pride, right? Like,
it was really
gay
fun.
rights, like little Claire. That's right.
It was really
like
literally, it was really fun. So I guess like Brighton was kind of more, and then I started like learning more about Pride and all of that, just had like more kind of access to the community. That's
interesting.
What about you?
When I was like kind of like researching a bit what to talk about in the podcast, I was thinking like, where was my first encounter with something gay? And something gay sounds like something gay, but you know what I mean, like, and I think I don't quite remember, but I do remember something like it's really bad. Like, and I guess this is not only Latin America, it's everywhere, but especially Latin America, we used to have this very like misogynist, homophobic shows when there were one character that was a joke of the show, and kind of like a comedy thing. They make sure someone because it's gay, and I had that memory, like these characters that were super flamboyant, and we make fun of them, and it's kind of the joke of the show. I think that's why I remember, and I always thought it was very strange, was very like, I never find it funny, but something like, for example, in Venezuela, it's very common that we make fun, like, we have always in shows like this character like is super gay, like super feminist, like like comedy shows overall kind of thing, like this type of like, it was something very, I think also very the 90s, I suppose. And then I think my second like I feel that I remember a lot was like with my family, we were in the car, and there were like these big like I said, like motorway in Caracas. There's a lot of prostitutes, and I remember being like very confused, but like no one explained me what it was about. I understood later in life what it was or why, because it's kind of like, like, well, they're prostitutes, but some of them are like a man, but they look like a woman. That's also very jokey. People make fun of them, or they used to. Hopefully nowadays they make it's less, but I'm sure it still happens. So it's kind of like they make fun of them because they're in the streets, they're sluts, they're prostitutes, they are also like men, but they're wearing like a woman. There's probably most of them were like trans women, but in a really rough situation. So I think I have all these little memories that back in the day didn't make a lot of sense, and I didn't have a lot of explanation. But nowadays I'm like, thinking like to talk about like why we celebrate Pride, like because maybe some of us we don't know why we celebrate it, like what's Pride and why we're so proud of it, on being like of this terminology that happens in June. And we celebrate Pride in June because back in the 69 it was this major riot in Stonewall in New York. Maybe some of you heard, which was like a big like, let's say like a gay liberation act, where like a group of gay or people part of the LGBTQ plus community just decided to like fight back the police, because back in the day, especially in the 60s, if you were gay, if you were different than the norm, you were attacked, you were put in jail. Well. It was illegal. So you cannot even be in a club dancing with a man or with a woman, for your same sex, for example, because they can just put you in jail, for example. It was illegal to be homosexual in any aspect of it. So, but that day, there was a day in the 69 in June that they decided to like, fuck the police, we're gonna fight back. And it was this major revolution, which it was in Stonewall, New York. And that's why Pride celebrated that, because that was the day like it kind of like create the first step for change. I think it's really good to remember and to remind the people that made this happen, which it was like, it's interesting enough because even within the community we forget. And it's basically, I want to get the name right, because I want to be this is the part when I get more like history, and so I don't want to discredit any person. Well, basically we got like Marsha P. Johnson, which is a very popular figure for the LGBTQ plus movement. And we also got like Sylvia Rivera. Both of them, they were the ones that pushed this forward that day, in that period of time. Well, Marsha, she was a black drag queen, and Sylvia was like a Latinx transgender. So, it was a woman. So it was very like, it's interesting because even within the community nowadays, sometimes if you are black, or if you're a black drag queen, or if you are like a transgender woman, you're a bit like neglected. There's a lot of that still. So it's good to remember there were people, a person of color, drag queen, a person Latin, transgender, that were the ones that fought for us to have this that we have nowadays, and kind of like this liberation, let's say. So
Stonewall, that was presumably why the charity was then called Stonewall, right? Okay, cool.
Sorry. Because I think a lot of people, they wonder like, why we celebrate something in June? That was we celebrated. So that was we celebrate the month of Pride. And well, of course, now it becomes like a celebration, of course, which is like more like parties and things happening, and like it's more like a proper celebration.
I just actually was thinking when you were talking that not to throw anybody under the bus, but when you were asking about early memories of Pride and everything like that, it's a bit dark, but I remember somebody in my family, there was a Pride in London, obviously, as there is every year, somebody saying, why do they need to celebrate? This individual in my family is a bit homophobic. So why do they need to celebrate? Why do they need to push their sexuality in our faces, kind of thing? And I remember then at uni bringing that up with a gay friend that I had at the time at uni, and he said like, well, what about us? We've been having like heterosexual sexuality being pushed in our faces all the time, and that really stuck in my mind, because of course I thought like Pride was great and everything like that, and it is really important, but I think that's probably a view that a lot of people do still. Maybe they don't articulate it now, but a lot of people probably will be thinking that, like, why is it important for them? Why can't they just mind their own business and be in their behind closed doors, or something like that? But that's not. It's good that you bring this up, because this is part of why Pride exists. Because the point is, people are still dying every day for being gay. So literally we're talking about humans that are being killed, they're being oppressed, they're being mistreated around the world, because literally they have a sexual orientation that it's different than what it's the norm
air quotes. So while this is happening, that's why that's so important to not push the idea of pride, to celebrate pride, because we're still on a fight.
Totally.
Because, you know, like, we live in London, it's obviously good to live in London if you're gay, but most of countries, even in Europe, it's really bad, and they can kill you for being gay. That's why when people say, like, trans, for example. So that's why people say, like, I have to, like, push. It's not about push, it's about we're literally asking to have the same rights as straight people. And it's not about, like, being one thing is right, one thing is wrong. No, it's like everything needs and can, like, be in the same space and celebrate it. Like, it's good to be straight, it's good to be gay, it's good to be lesbian, trans, everything is part of, like, a whole, the society. Everything needs to celebrate it and respect. That's the point of it at the end of the day.
And I think it's a similar argument that people have, for example, on Women's Day. Why you have everything that you want, you're fine, blah, blah, blah. No, that isn't the case, even in London. So that's why, again, it's important to go on women's marches, to have Women's Day, because women are oppressed as well. Like, the LGBT community, women are as well. So, and probably, I wonder who's saying it. If straight men are probably saying these kind of comments, I would assume. So anyway, back to.
But that's really good that you brought this up, because that's one of the main things when people, every single time you think, like, why we have this month that we are being so bombarded by, like, being gay is okay. It's because there are people basically being dying, oppressed, and being questioned their life and who they are, because for who they are, basically. Well, if you are straight, for example, you don't have that ever. So that's basically the reason for it, without getting too dark. But maybe a bit more like, interesting thing about all of this pride situation. Like, I had the opportunity last weekend to go to a pride in Canterbury. I've never been in Canterbury. It was my first time here in England, which I think was a very lovely, like, city, town. Right? Town.
Village,
it was
village.
I think it's like a village. Yeah, it was actually very. You're like it has a cathedral in the middle, so I'm sure it's a village. You know, that's not a city.
It's a city. They have a cathedral.
It's a city. Yeah, it's a city. Yeah, it's a city actually.
Yeah, they have a cathedral.
So it's a city. Yeah. So I think.
They live
part
in
of the UK,
cottages, right?
Where did you go, Enzo? Excuse me.
You took a boat to get there, right?
Literally, yeah. So I went to Canterbury because I had the opportunity to take, like, photos, part of the Canterbury Pride Festival, which is like a huge one because it's kind of like the Kent area Pride, blah, 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 blah. And it was a really big event. I didn't know what's happening, but I got the opportunity to go there, take some photos. And what I found really interesting about this Pride celebration, and kind of like, like, really moved me and really surprised me as well, is how, like, somehow this place seems to be, like, so ahead of the time, in the sense of, like, you have no idea how many families I saw there. Like, straight, like, traditional families, like a man and a woman with their 2 kids going to Pride with the little, like, flags, and supporting the movement and supporting, like, everyone. And I think it was very impressive, because what it's being portrayed a lot of in media and something, especially, like, I think this is more America, because we get also a lot of this from America, that people are very, especially when they're conservative, they are very against to Pride, because they think, it's against, we're religious as well, it's against the traditional family, it's against all of these things, which is not. It's just like a different thing. What we're talking about is just something doesn't cancel the other thing, right? And I think this Pride, I was very surprised, because it was so, like, familiar. It was like so many families, so many straight people there, and I was like, "Whoa, this is how it should be." That's like, like,
it's just like a day out, basically.
It's a day out, like that, and you see a lot of kids that I'm sure they were not gay or whatever. There's some kids, very young kids, being like, "Oh, this is so nice," because you can tell they were very, like, I don't know, maybe they were feminine, they were more expressive. It's like, how nice is, like, a kid 10 years old, if the way
that's the thing, right?
They want to express themselves, their parents allow them to be them. You know how easy your life is if your parents are like, you can be whoever you want to be.
And given that message really young, because I think you start probably knowing stuff about sex around 10 or something like that, 10, 11. Like, if you start, say you're a boy and then you start feeling like, I'm gay, to have your parents kind of bring you somewhere and be like, oh, look, like, this
It's
is
fine.
normal
It's
and
normal.
this is okay and
Yeah.
this can be celebrated. Like,
Definitely.
because I think, I don't know because I'm not gay, but I would imagine like a lot of the angst is like the secret, right?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
having to work it out on your own.
Yeah.
Like, let me,
Everything.
what I understand from my friends is like, you work it out privately and then you bring it to your family
Yeah.
and say, oh, I am gay, this is it, like I'm decided. But how painful to go through that on your own
Yeah.
when you don't have anyone to say, like, if I was gay and I wouldn't have been able to tell my mum, that would have been such
Exactly.
a heavy burden, you know.
Exactly.
So in that case, it's so important that
Of course.
they're being given the message of like, this is totally normal and okay, you know.
Absolutely right. And
Yeah.
also out of respect, because the fact that those kids are there doesn't mean they are gay or lesbians or trans or whatever. They're just like part of society, and they're just there knowing since they're small that everyone needs to be respect.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
true,
like,
true.
and it's interesting because I've seen a lot of like videos and things, and I always comment like with you or my friends, like how crazy it is that the new generation, they don't have any like issue to understand stuff. It's kind of like, oh, that person is gay. What does it mean to be gay? Oh, well, that he's a man, he likes a man, or he's a woman, a woman. Okay, fine. You know,
Yeah.
kids nowadays, they have no issues. It's because they are like very easy. Like, you know, they don't have these limitations. And I think it's part of like this kind of like how
Lots of
things
culture
are changing,
and
right?
it made me think of something like Sex Education, for
Sex
example.
Education,
Like that show. Sometimes
yeah.
it's a little, they overdo it, but it's good because
Yeah.
they push like so many different types of people,
Yeah.
different types of relationships, and like I think that's really important because somebody, like kids watching that, maybe they can see themselves, or like young teens can see
Yeah,
themselves in that,
of course.
which I think we didn't have.
I don't know. I was fascinated by the fact, like, seeing families there and being like, you know, teaching their kids that about inclusion, about love, about acceptance, about like we are all the same and we all have our freedom and blah blah blah. I think that was very interesting.
Is there, sorry to interrupt you, like, is there a pride in crackers or no? It's
Well,
not
I
really, like-
remember there was like a small celebration. There was a small celebration that happened. I guess over time it grew
like
up.
maybe now.
Well, I mean, not to go to Caracas really quick, but this is connected to Pride. Like, it's very, like, you can tell how backwards it is still in Latin America and cities like Caracas. Like, for Pride Month, in one of the main avenues, or like, yeah, like one of the main areas of Caracas, they changed the color of, like, the bike pavement. How do you call it? The bike lane.
But yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
they put, like, the rainbow flag all over a big chunk of the bike lane, no?
yeah.
And of course that caused a lot of
Yeah.
things. A lot of people on the internet saying like that's wrong, why they're pushing it, why they want to like hurt family and traditions, they're obnoxious, they are like a disaster, they should be punished, you know, all this stuff, super homophobic things. And that's the thing, like a lot of people still feels like the fact that you are celebrating or you are trying to say like I have rights, it's kind of like you want to cancel them. It's like, I mean, by doing this, I'm just asking to have rights. I'm not asking for you to have less rights.
Yeah.
You know, you can have 100% rights and I can have 100% rights. We don't like eliminate each other. And I think that's one of part of the problem
it's
as
like
well,
that
right?
complete problem with like power struggles in
Yeah.
general, because
Power
it's
struggles.
always like that thing of like the top of the triangle doesn't want to be challenged, because it's that thing of like you think that if you give away power, if you share power or whatever, then like because there is enough to go around, right? That's the thing with anything. Like if you talk about the LGBT community, if you talk about like money, if you talk about women, like it's just people want to be equal, but people at the top are used to being at the top.
Yeah.
And so therefore, like any threat on that's the kind of reaction that you will get.
Yeah.
And it's also not just about that, it's like internalized homophobia with
Obviously.
these comments, which again comes from religion, and
But
also
most likely most
Yeah.
of them are from religion,
Yeah.
sadly. But yeah, I mean, this connected to other thing, and kind of like, I mean, I have so many, we can have a long episode about a lot of stuff, but I want to connect this, like, recently in America, this is the whole situation with this, like, law that they want to change the public schools, how you teach kids about, like, sex and about like your identity and all of that. So it's been like a big issue because basically the conservatives, they say like, oh, we shouldn't talk about sex or we shouldn't talk about orientation schools only if you are more than 12 or 13 or something like that. So because they feel like it's not okay to tell kids about being gay or not.
Okay.
That's basically what it is. And these, like, obviously these become like a whole movement, and it's called like the don't say gay law, and it's been going all over the country. A lot of cities, a lot of cities like areas in America, they want to be part of this law. Some of us are fighting. So it's a bit complicated thing because basically the conservatives, they don't want to like kids. They don't think kids should know about like gays because they think that will like affect them or something, which like comes from this idea. They think because you are gay, because you're being exposed of the concept of being gay, it's like I am not because of that, you know what I mean? I have no gay influence in my life, and you know what I mean? Well, I think we talk a few things about today.
Yeah,
I want to talk about like drag queens and stuff as well, because it's another topic that's very today. Let's get a few minutes. Well, talking about drag queens, this is connected to this because also part of this month and the conservatives and fight around America, this was this whole thing with like drag queen shows and kids.
Yes, yeah.
So basically they want to create a law that basically they not allow kids to be in drag queen shows. Okay. Because some people don't feel comfortable with the kids seeing a drag queen show because they can may feel confused, right? Which a point I was like, well, if I'm a parent and if I decide to bring my kid to a drag queen show, as a parent I was playing this kid. Yeah. The drag queen show is it's an art form, right? It's basically a person having like a character. In this case, it's a man. You know, obviously it's a bit complex. Maybe if you think your kid is too small to understand it, just don't bring it to your drag show queen. But don't create a law to ban kids to be in drag queen show, because like we don't have a law for prevent kids to go to gun shows. So we're literally in America, there are kids going to gun shows, and they are going to all this photo with guns and all of this type of like crazy things, and that we don't ban, but we ban kids to see drag queen shows. And this all happened because I think like it started with like, it was very funny actually, because it was like a drag queen show in a park. It was this drag queen which was very like it was like impersonating Lady Gaga, so it was doing like a very like fun show. It was nothing like sexualized or nothing really like a kid shouldn't be allowed to see. And you can see kids that were just having fun because for them it's someone in a costume. Well, you know, it's part of it. It's being in a costume, being expressive, and they don't see anything else more than fun, you know. And that start from that because there were parents that, oh no, my kids don't should exposed to that. It's kind of like, well, you choose where your kids are, right? Yeah. And it's like, and if I'm sure a drag queen, also a lot of drag queens, when they have more like a adult like content, they don't want kids in the show, and the shows are later. Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't it funny what like, because I think about, not to talk too much about parenthood, but it's a bit like the priorities are so wrong, and I think that what you're describing is like an extreme example that a lot of parents would be like, you were saying about the families in the Canterbury Pride were very like chill about all of that and bringing their kids there, and that's great. But it's like, that is just so unimportant, and then like there are things that like really mess kids up, and then they need to spend like their whole lives or being an adult trying to like undo all of that stuff. And yet you think about, do you know what I mean? It's like really like, let's, again, we're not parents yet, like we might not be parents, but it's a bit like, why would you be concerned about that rather than
the main fundamental things of life that are important, or telling your kids they have to be good people, for example, or not hurt anyone else. Would be like
laughing at a drag show, for example, and because it's very like over the top, typical humor, and they'd probably find it hilarious. Exactly. And then they probably won't think anything more of it. You know?
And the thing is, and like, if you think it's too complicated to explain your kid that, it's based on your own bias, because you have all the situations that you believe, like, I don't know, because some people come from the point like, oh no, but it's a man dressed like a woman and all of these things. But then there's another issue behind it. What is so... It's this whole thing that it goes to the back, like why we have such a problem to see someone dressing in a different way, which is like clothing are just a form of expression. And if you are a man or a woman, you can dress whatever you want as long as you feel comfortable, right?
And again, then we go to sexism.
And we come
we've spoken
sexism.
about this before. We've spoken about this with Bad Bunny, for example. It's like, how dare a straight Latino man wear a skirt?
Basically.
Because it's bad for a man to wear women's clothing. Why? Because it's bad to be a woman. Blah, 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 blah,
It goes
blah,
on
boring,
and
boring,
on.
boring, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
so,
that is...
Yeah.
like society and everything.
For me, it's difficult to understand why they think that kids, they won't understand certain things, you know, like, you know, if you're talking with a kid of 3 years old, obviously, but when your kid has a certain age, they understand everything you explain them, if you explain them right.
Because we have this weird thing around like childhood, right? And maybe this is a topic for another day.
Yeah.
Like we think that children need to be sheltered from things or not like privy to certain conversations, but they know, they really know, because kids are really smart and they're really perceptive. Like they know probably before you do that you're going to get a divorce or something like that, or they're not shocked when you tell them we're going to get a divorce or something, or they know things. So why, it's that weird thing of like, but by sheltering them, or I don't know, it's all about the way you do it, right? Like
the way you do
it. It's like you, of course, there is like an innocence. The brain isn't fully developed yet. You want to like keep some things, but it is the way that you describe it. Like it's not like, it doesn't need to be ridiculously graphic.
And also, reality is out there, and there's many things that it needs to be exposed to them, like with time. And it's good not to like. I mean, that's my point of view. I'm not a parent, but if I was, I think that's what I would do it. And I think like, obviously, you find ways how to do it, how you think is best for your kid. But the truth is, like, they know a lot. And I remember being a kid, and as you say, I knew a lot of things, but nobody explained it to me. I knew like things were sexual. I seen like in telenovela there was like a guy and like a woman and a man in a bed, like naked, and I was wondering since really small what they're doing. That's how they have fun, you know. I have this thought, and no one would explain to me like, oh, it would be better if someone was like, there's something called having sex. They're having this is for adults, blah 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 blah. You know, like, we need to explain these things to kids.
We do, and in a proper way, because I think also maybe this is different. I mean, parents today, please do leave us a comment and tell us kind of how you're kind of parenting your child a bit differently to maybe how you were raised in this kind of way. But I think it's that thing of like, they don't say having sex, they say like a special hug or something. And it's like, oh, forgot, that doesn't help either, because then you're like, wait, what? And if can I
do
that, or like can I? It's like that worry of like, am I accidentally gonna? And it's like no, and then you know blah blah blah. I remember being so confused when I was little of being like, and I was like to my mum, like basically like level with me. I was probably like 5. I was like, how can you tell the difference between a boy baby and a girl baby?
Interesting.
Like literally, I was like, I just don't understand. And my mum was like, okay. Like,
here we go.
But those kind of questions that kids have, and so it's really good to expose them, I think.
Anyway, it's a long topic. I think I covered half of the things I want to talk, but it's just like I just feel, and if you're a parent or if you're not a parent, but you can like talk a bit more of this in the comments. I just wonder, like, why do you feel it's so bad or complicated to explain a kid like there's also like gay people, lesbian and trans, you know? It's good to see change, and it's good to like see how things are maybe going a different direction and moving and just understanding. I think it's always important to understand like nothing takes anything to anyone, you know, like the fact that there's a community of people that they want rights and they want to be appreciated and they want to have the same as you doesn't mean that you will have less. We can all just have the same, which is the point of this. And like, I think a society, a good society, is when everyone is happy, respectful, and feeling happy as their fullest of their was supposed to be, or they are, you know. And I think that's something like to keep in mind, and hopefully,
also like people deserve safety as well. Like, not to make it really serious, but I think it is serious. Like you said at the beginning of the episode, like people deserve to live their life in peace. And you know, healthily, and being okay, and being who they want to be. So that's why this is important, you know.
Literally. So well, that's it for today, guys. Do you have a
recap,
right? I'm like, Claire.
Excuse
like,
me.
And so have things to say. So Claire, you got 60 seconds to tell me your thoughts about it. Pride, drag queens, laws, homophobic people.
Okay.
everything in between you feel you want to like talk about in 60 seconds. And there we go.
I really like this topic. It was very interesting. I didn't actually know the history of Pride, so that was good to hear.
Yeah.
I think, again, it's just like another reminder. I think that a reason of why we need to celebrate Pride, and it's really good that it's becoming way more mainstream. And like you said, it's really good that in the Canterbury example, like people were bringing their children there. And yeah, it's like, I think we all see like the advertisements and everything, even though we kind of laugh about that a little bit. Like, it is good that it's just becoming part of like mainstream thinking. Like June is a month that we celebrate Pride and what that means, and like inclusivity and all of that. It's made me think a lot about parenthood and how we educate our kids and how we kind of expose them to different information. I think that's something that really needs to be considered. And yeah, all I hope for is world peace.
And boom, thank you, Claire, for your thoughts.
You're welcome.
And yes, I mean, yeah, like it's a long topic, but definitely like we can see like how mainstream it has become, which is good in ways. Of course, there's a lot of like mixed opinions about it, because there are people that use the month also to because it's a trendy thing, so let me hop in this trend to get some like revenue or money or something out of it. But at the end of the day, I'm the type of people that believes like everything helps. So, you know, even though sometimes some companies or some people, they seem to be kind of profiting from the trend, I think at the end that also give a message, like that also reach people. And the most I think for something like this at this point, the more exposure we have, the best.
Definitely,
obviously, we need to know. And if you are part of the community, you need to know where this exposure come from, because you can spot if it's something genuine or it's something that want to just money out of you or something like that. But I think the exposure is definitely important, and the fact that this new generation is growing up thinking like this amount that we celebrate people from the this community, and that's okay, and it's something for celebrate and like appreciate, and I think it's good.
It is good, and like also like I think like the LGBT community like has had like a really rich history, no matter the country, like, and in every country and community will have like a different kind of subculture of that. But I think that we're in a history now, and maybe this is like a different era of it, you know, and people will look back and think like, because people will be like, oh my god, like now we're like, how was being gay illegal? And like, but then maybe people will look back on this time like, oh yeah, do you remember when they started, like Sainsbury's started advertising Pride? And you know what I mean, like,
you're totally right,
that kind of thing, because it is a community. So
exactly. I really get what you're saying, and it's definitely that. I think those things, when time pass, you kind of like can spot how they help, you know, and how they make a difference in their own way. So well, thank you guys for listening to us today,
and have a very happy Pride
month. Yes, please.
The thumbnail.
Yes, please love everyone.
Please.
Don't judge people for thinking different than you.
Totally.
Just remember that people just want to be happy, celebrate it, have the same rights as everyone. That's how we help community, all being happy and having the same rights, free and safe and healthy.
Everybody deserves the same rights.
That's how we move forward in this society and this world. So thank you very much for watching, and
see you next week. Bye.